Aborigine. They still exist, in Australia. You can speak to one of them after one interview in quite a lot of detail, and he's living. There's never been a farmer in his generations, but what they have got is more powerful than us. Every story is accurately passed on from father to son.
Yeah.
So they have an absolutely almost bulletproof history in any generation from the beginning. All of them think that they've been alive 10,000 years. All of them. So here's the other thing. They still live like the same savages they've always lived like. They've never farmed, they've never planted a seed. They take, as you know, Aborigines take things out of the ground, they take things off the trees, they take things out of the bush, and they've never farmed. They've never ever planted one of those trees or planted one of those bushes. They take what they can find. They're nomads and they live on the ground. They've never had houses type thing. They have temporary shelters. And they're savage as human beings can be. I'm not saying they're bad-hearted. I'm not saying they're bad people. In that way I'm saying savages. But what I'm saying is, they live as they did 10,000 years ago. There's no evolution in them at all. I remember going to Gambia, and one of the really powerful guys, who still to this day is a really good friend of mine, really he's like a brother, we've been through everything. And I was walking up I've been in Gambia for loads, and I was walking up one of the streets, and I'm like, look at people sitting outside, throwing eating a bit of fruit, and they just throw it, whatever's left, just throw it in the street in front of their own house. And the roads are all broken, and there's trash everywhere, and it's just a stinkhole, right? And these are relatively middle-class houses for that area. And I'm saying to them, why, instead of sitting on their ass, why aren't they actually going and fixing their own street? And he laughs at me. He goes, that'll never happen. He's the guy from Gambia. He's the guy from Gambia. And he's like, okay, it is never going to happen. And I'm like, all they have to do is you can take the trash and throw it in the street and put it in one of those holes and put some sand over it. And start the ball rolling. It's like, you think these people are, but it's not you think it. So, I'm like scratching my head going like, let's get started now. Okay, let's go. And then when you look at all the buildings, the beauty and the majesty of white people all over the world, all over the world, and the fact that prophecy said that the chosen of God will be farmers. They'll be the farmers of the world. They'll be the builders of the world. There's even references to them eating dairy. The rest of the world's dairy intolerant. I don't know. I'm just maybe grasping here. But, and then you go, and they've been 6,000 years old, right? Almost to the day. And then you look at the Aborigines and the blacks, and they're the same thing. Then you look at a map, and you go from, Aborigine around about the Pacific Islands, Australia, New Zealand, Africa way down there, and then you look at, whites up there, and then you've got Asians in the middle of both the Aborigines and the whites, the mixed race of them, and it's just, it all fits like you love, right? But the Aborigine people, they proved to me pre-Adamites. I think they prove it themselves. That's why I think they themselves, a lot of black people think that they're pre-Adamites, that they've been alive longer than whites. I mean, how they know that, I don't know, but they're adamant about it, if you pardon the pun, but adamant. But I think, that's what I think. I think when Lucifer was in the good books of God, I think for at least 4,000 years he had dominion over the whole earth, and he probably had a heavy hand in creating the people of the earth, and that's who he created. I think he created the black people.
Yeah.
Okay. Gave them big willies and stuff, you know what I'm saying? Made them in his own arrogant image. They made them strong, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
The manipulated, like they when they were like crossing all kinds of species and stuff.
Yeah. And I think maybe he did something wrong. Maybe that was the start of them going to bed with him. But he was denounced, and he was denounced. And how do you know that? Because he gave Adam dominion over the earth.
Yep.
So he had to have taken dominion from someone else, and it had to have been Lucifer. And that's why Lucifer was so angry at God. He knew at that point he'd went too far, and it was now war against God, right? Because he was so arrogant and up himself, right?
I think that's what the parable of the husbandman was that was Lucifer. They had, he was watching God's estate while he was gone, and then when Adam came, and then they killed Abel, that was the parable, they were beating them, and And he's like, I revealed to you things that were kept secret from the foundation of the earth. And he was talking about that parable, of the husbandman and the winepress. And I think God was retelling the creation story.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right, as usual. I also think there's a high chance, I'm not saying I fully believe it, but there's a high chance that Genesis 1:27 is talking about the pre-Adamite birth. Yeah. If you look at the animals of the earth, it's not the farm animals, is it? You look at Revelation, it's not Revelation, I said it again, Genesis 2:8, and that's talking about Adam, that's talking about the farm animals that he gets dominion over and stuff. I just think if you step back like Google Earth and look at it differently, I think and you're open to being wrong, I think you'll teach anyone that asks. And I think that's what he's taught me. There's loads of things about the Bible I don't know. I don't know the real status of marriage after, it's something I'm going to pray about this week. I don't know the real status about, because on the surface it looks like you don't have a wife in heaven. Right. But we're not going to heaven, we're going to 1,000 years back in the renewed earth. Things like that trouble me, because something I want to do more than anything with my own 3 brothers, have more children, and especially if there's no evil, and we can go to Jesus about anything that we want to know. The best way to cook a potato, for example, anything. And I'm a curious soul, so to teach more children that and have that as my contribution back to the world is something that really inspires me. So I wouldn't like to think you shouldn't have children, maybe not in heaven, but maybe in earth, maybe in the 1,000 years. Things like that, I have no clue. I don't really know what happens to people that are not with God when they die. Is it nothingness until the judgment, or are they in the first layer of heaven? I don't know. But the things I've been taught, and the things I've figured out myself, I think I've figured out myself, which is more often wrong than right. But the things I get taught are more often right than wrong. So I don't know what else to say. This is biblical what's happening now, and it can't succeed. All it can succeed is on you personally. If you don't find your way to Christ, if you don't find your way to God, Yahushua, and you don't get, if you get led astray by the churches, this is my view on the scripture. If you're daft enough to think the law was nailed to the cross and you don't have to follow the 10 Commandments, then I think that's a shame. If you don't think you have to follow the food laws, I think that's a shame. If you don't think, that you have to follow the Sabbath, and you think, and you ignore the break one commandment, you break them all, I don't know, that's a shame, but that's the only way you can be defeated by the devil, and that's his whole operandi, modus operandi. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to separate you from God, and the more wickedness that you've ever had in your life, the more, and you think about getting compensation, getting physical revenge, your greatest revenge of all the wicked that's ever happened to you in your life is to be solid with God. Yeah. And then you will always be above your tormentors.
Absolutely.
It's the ultimate revenge, although that shouldn't be your motive.